Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking financial accounting. We're working on this series of videos for the Chapter 2 problems, Group B, the assigned homework problems in the digital study guide. And in the last couple of videos, we did problem 37, so we're going to pick up with 38. And since 37 and 38 are pretty much identical, I'm not going to repeat an awful lot of the stuff that I had explained in 37. So watch 37 and I'm just going to work through 38. And after watching the videos, if you still don't understand something, go back and watch the theory videos because it's all covered there again. And if you're still not getting it, feel free to telephone and speak with an instructor. Okay, so let's do 38 here and get my pen. All right, it says borrowed $150,000 from Northern Bank. The company president signed a note payable to the bank in the name of Action Advertising. So the journal entry is going to be 5-1. I'm asking myself, am I affecting cash? Yes, because I'm getting $150,000. Cash is an asset, and I increase my assets on the debit side, so I'm going to debit cash for $150,000. That means debits have to equal credits, so I have to credit something else. And what is the other context of the transaction? And the other context of the transaction says the president signed a note payable. Okay, so when I look at my accounts down here, I have a notes payable account, so I'm going to put notes payable for $150,000. And that's the journal entry. Okay, I'm erasing it. Okay, next one, 5-3. Says paid $135,000 cash to purchase an office building. So am I affecting cash? Yes. My cash, since I'm paying it out, is decreasing. So if I increase cash on the debit side, that means I decrease cash on the credit side. So I'm going to credit my cash. Notice I indented for $135,000. And debits have to equal credit, so I have to debit something else. So what am I debiting? Well, I'm purchasing an office building. I look at my accounts and I have building. So I will use building and debit that for $135,000. That's my entry. Okay, erasing. All right, next one, May 6th. Provided services to customers on account for $11,800. So am I affecting cash? No. If I'm not affecting cash, then I ask, am I affecting accounts receivable or accounts payable? And the answer is yes, because it's on account. And since I'm providing services, that means somebody else is going to owe me, so it's an accounts receivable. So my accounts receivable is going up by $11,800. And since receivables is an asset just like cash is an asset, I'm increasing my receivables on the debit side. So debit to accounts receivable for $11,800. And I'm crediting something else. What am I going to credit? Well, what am I doing? I'm providing services. I'm making sales in the normal operation of my business. So when I look down at my accounts, I come over here to the revenue section and I see service revenue. So I'm going to credit service revenue for the $11,800, and that's my entry. Okay, next is 5-9. Purchased $1,100 of office supplies on account. So I'm asking myself, am I affecting cash? No. Why? Because I'm purchasing it on account. So am I affecting accounts receivable or payable? Yes. I'm affecting accounts payable because I'm purchasing. That means I owe somebody, right? it's a liability, and if I look at my liability accounts, it's accounts payable. So I credit my accounts payable because I credit my liabilities. That's what increases my liabilities. So I credit accounts payable for the $1,100, and since debits must equal credits, I debit something else. And what am I doing? I'm purchasing office supplies. Okay, so it says office supplies. It doesn't say office supply expense, so it's something that I'm going to own. So when I look at my accounts, I see supplies. That best fits. So I debit supplies for $1,100, and that's my entry. $513. Provide services to cash customers for $8,100. Okay, so I'm providing service to cash customers. Am I affecting cash? Yes, because why? I'm receiving cash, so I'm debiting cash because cash increases on, cash is an asset, and we increase our assets on the debit side. So that's 8,100, and I have to credit something else. So I'm providing the service, just like we did for that transaction for 11,800. So that's service revenue for 8,100, and that's my entry. Okay. Okay, so May 15th, paid 5,000 of dividends to company stockholders. So am I affecting cash? Yes. My cash is decreasing because I'm paying out $5,000. So if cash is an asset, right, and I decrease my assets on the credit side, I credit my cash for 5,000. Debits have to equal credits, so I have to debit something else, and I'm paying dividends to the stockholders. So if I'm looking in my equity section, I only have two accounts. One of them is dividends. So I debit dividends for 5,000, and that's my journal entry. Remember to make sure you indent your credits, okay? Because nothing goes in the same column, all right? They get offset. They're in different columns. And so 517, received payment on account from credit customers for 7,500. Okay, so if I'm receiving a payment, that means I'm receiving cash, right? So my cash is increasing, and we know that we're going to debit our cash for 7,500. I have to credit something else. Debits have to equal credits. So what am I crediting? Well, it's on account from credit customers. Customers are people who owe us, and if they owe us, that's an accounts receivable. So I credit accounts receivable for 7,500, and that's my journal entry. Okay, notice I didn't have to think through. If I went and I tried to work backwards in the other half of the transaction first with accounts receivable, I'd have to start beginning to make more difficult decisions. Whereas in this case here, I just needed to back into whether it was a debit or credit. I didn't have to think it through. And so for 518, it says paid property tax expense, keyword expense, on office building for $1,250. Well, am I affecting cash? Yes, because I'm paying out, $1,250 for the expense. My cash is decreasing, so I know I have to credit cash for $1,250, and debits have to equal credits, so I debit something else, and it's property tax expense. So when I look at my expenses, I see my property tax expense account, and I debit that for $1,250. That's that entry. Okay, 522. Paid employee salaries, $3,350. So am I affecting cash? Yes, because I'm paying my employees, so my cash is decreasing, so I'm going to credit my cash for the 3350. Notice I didn't go through it. I mean, I just did 2 other journal entries knowing that when my cash decreases, I'm crediting it. But I know the underlying principles and concepts, okay? But since I've already done them, and it should be intuitive at this point in time. You should know to debit whether you should be debiting or crediting cash. So I'm paying employee salaries, so that's the normal operation of the business. So I look at my expense accounts and I see a salaries expense account that I'm going to debit for $33.50. And that's the journal entry for that. $26,526. Paid cash to purchase supplies. Okay, so I'm paying cash. Cash is decreasing, so I'm crediting my cash for $1,300. That means debits have to equal credits. I'm going to debit something else, and I'm purchasing supplies. Paid cash to purchase supplies. Right? It doesn't say supplies expense. So, my supplies is an asset. It's going to be something I own. So when I look at my chart of accounts here, I see supplies. So I'm going to debit supplies for $1,300. Okay. That's that entry. Last entry here is 531. It says paid 5,000 on account. Okay, so my cash is decreasing because I'm paying it out. So I'm crediting cash for 5,000. And that means I have to debit something else. And if I'm paying on account, I'm paying on my accounts payable. All right. So I debit accounts payable for 5,000, and there's the entry. I don't have to think about whether this accounts payable is a debit or credit because I just backed into it. And that's it for this problem. Total time it took me to do this is about 9.5 minutes. Okay, I spent about 3 minutes talking in the beginning of the video. All right. So let me let's see. I'm at 13 minutes. I'm going to pause here. Because I know that the problem 39 has, as I look at it here, has, I'm going to open up, set up T accounts, journalize, I'm going to post, and prepare a trial balance. So that's going to be a pretty complicated exercise. So I'll see you in that exercise in another video.